When the phone rang that morning, I was pruning the bougainvillea that framed the front porch of my little San Diego bungalow. The Pacific breeze carried the salt of the ocean, the same scent that had anchored me through years of widowhood since James's death a decade ago. The vibrant purple blooms trembled under my shears, a quiet ritual that steadied my hands. Hands that had once held scalpels and stitched wounds during my 35 years as a nurse at Scripps Hospital. Seeing Clara's name light up my screen should have sparked joy. Instead, I hesitated, the shears pausing mid-snip. It had been months since she'd called without Ethan's shadow lurking behind her words, a subtle influence that turned her warmth into distance. "Hi, Mom," she said flatly, as if we were business acquaintances exchanging memos. "Sweetheart," I replied, forcing warmth into my voice despite the knot in my chest. "I was just wondering when the big day is. I'll need to arrange time off." A pause stretched, heavy and deliberate, then words sliced deeper than any scalpel I'd wielded. "Oh, we already got married yesterday. Just a small ceremony in Los Angeles. Only people who really matter." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Only people who matter. I had raised her alone after James's heart attack stole him at 42, working double shifts at Scripps so Clara could attend St. Mary's private school. Every holiday, every scraped knee, every spelling bee triumph, it had been me, her rock, her world. And now, I didn't matter. I steadied my voice, years of nursing training kicking in. "I see. Well, congratulations." "Thanks," she continued, her tone lighter, almost rehearsed, as if reading from a script. "Ethan and I thought it would be better this way, less stressful. But we do need one thing from you. Can you send us the keys to the beach house? Ethan says it would be perfect for our honeymoon. He's always wanted to see La Jolla in the fall." There it was, the real reason for the call. Not to share her joy, not to invite me into this milestone, but to claim the one place still tethering us together. The La Jolla Beach House. My sanctuary. Bought with the last of James's insurance money after his death, it had been our summer escape for 20 years. Clara learned to swim in those waves, roasted marshmallows on that sand, and at 12 declared barefoot, "Mom, I'm going to get married right here someday." Now she wanted it handed over like a hotel reservation. I gripped the phone tighter, the plastic creaking under my fingers. "Of course, sweetheart, I'll make sure you get the keys." She thanked me quickly, then hung up. No details about the wedding, no dress, no cake, no photographs, just the demand for my house. I stood on my porch, the shears heavy in my hand, staring at the restless horizon where the Pacific met the sky. I wasn't just excluded. I was erased. But as the waves rolled steady against the shore, a thought hardened like the calluses on my nursing hands. If Ethan believed he could charm his way into my daughter's life and steal the one thing we loved most, he had underestimated me. This wasn't the start of their honeymoon. It was the start of my plan. 2 years earlier, when Clara first brought Ethan to dinner, I set the table in my San Diego townhouse with my grandmother's china, its delicate floral pattern a relic of happier times. Clara had requested my lasagna, the dish she'd begged for since she was 5, its recipe a secret passed from my mother. She wanted everything perfect, and I did too. After years of hearing about heartbreaks and dead-end boyfriends, college flings, a toxic relationship with a musician, she finally sounded truly happy, her laughter echoing through the house like it had when she was a girl. Ethan arrived in a tailored navy suit, holding a dozen roses as if stepping from a commercial. His smile was wide, polished, and practiced, a mask I recognized from too many ER patients feigning pain for sympathy. "Mrs. Bennet, what an honor," he said, handing me the flowers. "Clara always told me her mom was extraordinary." He asked about my nursing career, late-night shifts, saving lives during a flu outbreak, the time I delivered a baby in the ambulance, leaning in as if my stories captivated him. He complimented the lasagna, insisted on helping clear the table, and rolled up his sleeves to wash dishes, his movements smooth and deliberate. To anyone else, He was the perfect gentleman. But I'd lived long enough, patched up enough liars, to spot a performance. What unsettled me wasn't his politeness, it was his interest in things unrelated to Clara. 3 times during dinner, he circled back to my La Jolla beach house. "So Clara says you've owned the beach place for 20 years, he said, twirling pasta around his fork. "That must be incredible property value right on the Pacific. Do you rent it out? Ever thought of selling?" I smiled politely, my nurse's calm masking unease. "It's not for sale. That house holds every memory Clara and I made after James passed." "Of course," he replied quickly, flashing that rehearsed grin. "Family history is priceless." But his eyes lingered, calculating, as if appraising an asset. After dinner, as he hugged me goodbye, he said, "Your mother raised an extraordinary daughter. You must be so proud." The words should have warmed me, but they rang hollow, flattery chosen from a script. That night, loading the dishwasher, I couldn't shake the nagging thought that Ethan's charm was about positioning himself, less about loving Clara, more about accessing what she represented. In the months that followed, Ethan's presence grew like an invasive vine, choking the life from our bond. Clara's calls dwindled from weekly to sporadic. "Ethan thinks I should focus more on us," she explained one afternoon when I asked why she'd missed our Sunday brunch. Her voice carried that coach tone, the kind I'd heard from patients parroting doctors' orders. "He says successful couples prioritize each other. You understand, right, Mom?" I forced a smile she couldn't see through the phone. "Of course, sweetheart, if you're happy, I'm happy." But I wasn't. I watched my daughter, the girl who'd crawled into my bed during thunderstorms, who'd cried on my shoulder after James's funeral, drift into his orbit, her laughter replaced by his influence. The proof came 6 months later. Over morning coffee, scrolling half awake through Facebook, I saw it, a post of Clara's hand with a sparkling diamond. "He asked, I said yes. Can't wait to start forever with you." 53 likes, dozens of comments from friends and coworkers, none asking where her mother was because they assumed I knew. I didn't. My coffee went cold as I stared at the screen, the mug trembling in my hands. I called her immediately. She answered breathlessly, excitement spilling through. "Oh my God, Mom, I'm so sorry. It just happened last night, and we were caught up in the moment. Ethan surprised me at our favorite restaurant, then we called his parents. It got late, and I was going to call you this morning. I swear." My heart broke, but I forced warmth into my voice. "Congratulations, sweetheart. Tell me everything." She gushed about the proposal, the ring, Ethan's parents planning an engagement party at their country club. "When's the party?" I asked carefully. "Next Saturday. Just immediate family and close friends." "Should I drive up Friday?" Silence. "Mom, Ethan's family has specific ideas. His mother's traditional. It's really for his side." "And what do you think, Clara?" "I think Ethan knows his family better. I want to start right with them." I swallowed hard, a cold weight sinking into my stomach. My only daughter was engaged without me, building a life where I was a spectator, my role reduced to a footnote. 3 months after the engagement, Clara called while I reorganized linens in the hall closet, an ordinary Tuesday ritual in my retirement. I answered, expecting a wedding update, maybe an olive branch. Instead, her words froze me mid-fold. "Mom, I need to ask something. Be cool about it." My stomach tightened, a nurse's instinct for bad news kicking in. "What is it, sweetheart?" "It's about the beach house." I clutched a folded quilt to my chest, its fabric soft against my fingers. "What about it?" "Well, Ethan doesn't feel completely comfortable there. He says it's not really ours, like he's under your microscope every time we visit. I've always assumed I'd inherit it, so maybe it's time to sign it over." The hallway spun, the quilt slipping to the floor. That house was more than property. It was memory and survival, the last tangible piece of James's legacy. It was where Clara learned to swim, where she roasted marshmallows at 12 and declared her barefoot wedding dream. I cleared my throat, forcing my voice steady. Clara, that house has been ours for 20 years. It's where you and I built our lives after your father passed. It's not just a vacation spot. It's home. I know, Mom, I do. But Ethan feels it puts pressure on our relationship. Like he can never fully relax, knowing it's yours. He wants us to have our own special places without feeling indebted. Without feeling indebted. The word stung like salt water in an open wound. I'd never asked Ethan for anything, never scrutinized his presence. But now he was planting seeds in Clara's mind, twisting our memories into burdens. I tried to soften my tone. Sweetheart, I'm not asking you to give me anything. I'm offering you the space we've always shared. Her voice hesitated, almost apologetic. I know, but maybe it's healthier if we find somewhere new, somewhere just for us. That was when I realized what Ethan was doing. He wasn't just cutting me from wedding plans or family gatherings. He was dismantling the foundation of my bond with Clara, brick by brick, until the only voice she heard was his. After the call, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at a framed photo of Clara and me on that beach, her hair wild from the wind, my arms wrapped tight around her. She had once looked at me like I was her whole world. Now she was asking me to surrender it. Though I told her I'd think about it, deep inside, something steeled in me, a resolve forged from years of saving lives. If Ethan wanted my beach house, he would soon learn it came with more history than he could handle. I couldn't sit back. Ethan wouldn't stop at guest lists or holiday plans. He wanted the beach house, the inheritance, and perhaps Clara's independence. I fought back quietly, calling Victor, a private investigator and old colleague of James's brother, who'd transitioned from the San Diego police force. We met at a quiet coffee shop downtown, the hum of tourists blending with the ocean breeze. I need you to look into my future son-in-law, I said, sliding a photo of Ethan across the table. I can't explain it, but something in my bones tells me he isn't who he says he is. Victor studied the photo, then nodded. Leave it with me. A week later, he called, his voice heavy. We met in his office, files stacked in careful order. He pushed a folder toward me. Inside were marriage licenses that never led to weddings, financial reports, and old police notes. Ethan had been engaged twice, Emma Harrison, whose father exposed his gambling debts, and Sarah Blake, whose brothers stopped his trust fund thefts. Both ended abruptly. But what twisted my stomach was deeper. Newspaper clippings from the late 1980s about a failed business partnership. The name leapt out. Thomas Morrison. Ethan's grandfather? I asked. Victor nodded. William Morrison. He and your late husband James were partners in a shopping center project. Morrison embezzled millions, vanished to Florida, and left James bankrupt. James spent years in legal battles. My hands trembled as I turned the yellowed pages. James had never told me the full story, only mentioning a betrayal before his health declined. And now his grandson is trying to finish the job, I whispered. Victor's eyes were steady. Ethan's been living off money funneled through offshore accounts tied to Morrison's theft. He's been using those funds for years. This wasn't just about Clara's future. It was about James's past, a wound that had never healed. Ethan wasn't a manipulator. He was a predator with a legacy of deceit, targeting my daughter. 3 days after Clara's call demanding the keys, I knew what to do. Ethan thought I'd roll over, hand him the property, and fade quietly. He believed I was a sentimental widow, too soft to fight. But he didn't know the Grace who'd worked 24-hour shifts, who'd saved a child from a car wreck with her bare hands. I spent 72 hours at my kitchen table, assembling what I called my wedding gift. I laid out Victor's documents, marriage licenses, police reports, bank transfers linking Ethan to offshore accounts, added clippings about William Morrison, and copies of James's estate records naming Clara heir. Then I wrote a short note on crisp stationery. Every new husband should know his wife's family history. Congratulations, Grace. I slid everything into a leather portfolio, wrapped it in silver paper, and tied it with a white bow. It looked elegant, festive, like a wedding registry item. Friday morning, I drove to their Gaslamp Quarter apartment. Tourists bustled along the sidewalks, oblivious to the unraveling I carried. I set the gift outside their door, rang the bell, and walked away. By 2:17 p.m., the call came. Clara's number lit my screen, but Ethan's voice roared through, raw and unhinged. "What the hell is wrong with you, you crazy old witch? How dare you send us this garbage?" I set my teacup down gently, my nurse's calm intact. "Hello, Ethan. I take it you opened your wedding gift. This isn't funny. This is harassment. I'm calling the police." His words tumbled fast, desperate. I let a smile creep into my voice. "Report me, then. Tell them your mother-in-law gave you a gift of public records and archived articles. I'm sure they'll be fascinated." In the background, Clara's voice trembled. "Ethan, calm down. Let me talk to her." But he wouldn't relent. "She's insane. She's trying to ruin us." I spoke evenly, each word deliberate. "No, Ethan. I'm giving you the truth. Did you enjoy reading about your grandfather's embezzlement? About how he destroyed James's life? Or perhaps the bank records showing you've lived off stolen money for years?" Silence. Then, for the first time, fear seeped into his voice. "You're lying." "I never lie," I said softly. "I was a nurse. We're trained to be precise about facts. But don't take my word. Your grandfather's lawyer in Miami, Rodriguez, remembers you well. He's expecting your call." I heard Clara whisper, "Ethan, what is she talking about?" I hung up, the seed of doubt planted. For the first time in months, the weight on my chest eased. The next 2 days were restless. I barely slept, replaying Ethan's rage, then his fear, but Clara's broken whisper, "Ethan, what is she talking about?" stuck with me. Sunday morning, I found her on my porch steps in La Jolla, hair unwashed, eyes red, posture small as if she'd folded into herself. She didn't greet me. "Tell me everything." Over coffee at the kitchen table, where she'd once done math homework, I laid it out, Ethan's history, his broken engagements, his grandfather's crimes, the stolen money. I expected her to argue, to defend him. Instead, she pulled a manila folder from her purse. "I found these," she said, spreading emails. He left his laptop open. "He's been corresponding with a man named Marcus Webb about accessing Morrison inheritance accounts. They go back 2 years, before I even met him. Mom, he researched me. He knew about Dad, about the beach house. Meeting him wasn't an accident." Her voice cracked, but her eyes hardened. "I called Emma. She told me everything, how he isolated her, tried to control her accounts, then vanished when her father hired a detective. She put me in touch with Sarah. Same story, word for word." I reached across, squeezing her hand. "Sweetheart, I'm so sorry." "No," she said firmly, brushing tears away. "Don't apologize. I believed him over you. I pushed you away, but now I'm going to destroy him, and I need your help." For the first time in 2 years, my daughter's fire was back. The next morning, Clara met an estate attorney who confirmed her claim to millions Morrison had stolen from James. But there was more. Ethan's access to those funds opened him to charges of money laundering and conspiracy. That afternoon, we sat with Agent Elena Ruiz from the FBI San Diego office. "We've been tracking Ethan Morrison for months," she explained. "Your evidence fills the gaps. If you're willing, We can set up a controlled operation." Clara didn't hesitate. "I'll do it." Friday evening, Ethan returned with roses, eyes soft with manufactured regret. "I made mistakes, but we can start fresh. I love you, Clara." Microphones hid in the lamps, a wire beneath her blouse. At 9:31 p.m., he leaned close, whispering, "All I need is access to your accounts. Once that money moves, it's ours forever." Her voice was steady. "So you admit you married me for the inheritance?" "Yes," he said. "And you should be grateful." The door burst open. Agents stormed in, voices sharp. "FBI. Hands where we can see them." Ethan's mask cracked, his perfect smile collapsing into panic as cuffs snapped on. I watched from a safe distance, the tide finally turning. The news hit by Monday. Headlines splashed across the Union Tribune. "Local man arrested in multi-state fraud scheme." They spared Clara's name, but Ethan's mugshot, once charming, now hollow, stared from every screen. The trial began 6 weeks later. Clara testified with a strength I hadn't seen since her teenage debates, detailing how Ethan isolated her, convinced her I held her back, chipped away at her bonds. "He didn't just steal money," she told the jury, voice steady. "He tried to steal my family, my history, and the trust one had in myself." Emma and Sarah joined her, painting a predator who refined his scheme across years. The defense called him reckless, not criminal, but evidence, bank records, confessions, crushed that. The jury deliberated 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. At sentencing, the judge's gavel echoed. 12 years in federal prison, full restitution, and the siphoned accounts redirected to heirs. For Clara, it meant nearly $4 million from James's stolen estate. That evening, we sat on the La Jolla Beach House porch, the Pacific stretching endless before us. We flipped through albums, sunburnt noses, lopsided sandcastles, Clara laughing through tears. "Mom, I'm so sorry for everything I let him convince me of. I shut you out when you were the only one fighting for me." I wrapped my arm around her. "You were manipulated by an expert liar, but you came back. That's what matters." She nodded, eyes fierce again. "Next time I walk down an aisle, it'll be barefoot here with someone who loves you as much as they love me." As waves rolled steady, I felt something release, the grief of James's loss, the pain of Clara's drift. Truth had saved my daughter, an inheritance no one could steal. Word count and expansion details.